it's interesting to me the extent to which you're, in everything you're saying, you're exemplifying what we call the health of the helper. You know, the idea that the more you see, the more helpful you can be. Even when you only see a little, you can be X degree helpful. But the more, the better.
Yeah.
And the side benefit is you get to feel better and better and better. But for a lot of people in the fields, in the helping professions, they got into it because they needed help. So they thought by helping other people, they would get help. And I find that in talking to people, that's the hardest sort of barrier for them to cross. You know, like when you try to train people and they say, well, you know, I got into this therapy or whatever because I myself am not very happy, but I thought, well, maybe I'll feel better if I can help other people. And it's such a noble thought, but it's a conundrum.
Well, you know, I was very unhappy when I got into this, but I wasn't looking to go into it. What attracted me about counseling was that I was good at it.
Yeah.
You know, I was kind of good at analyzing people, and I was good at working. I was a consultant, and I would work with people to develop group homes for people who were intellectually challenged. And I thought, I'm pretty good at this, you know, helping people to do things and advising people. I think I'd like to do that, because I knew that there was people suffering like me, and so if I could help them to not suffer, that would be a great thing. And in the process, I guess I never even thought about it helping me at the time, but after I got in, and of course I was really wanting to know what worked, what would help people, because I wanted to get relief myself. But there is kind of this understanding in the field that helping somebody doesn't necessarily mean you have to be mentally healthy yourself.
Right.
And that's because people look at human beings as being unable to change. Like if you have a certain level of mental illness, that you have to like learn how to manage that or cope with it rather than really be free of it. And so the best you can see to do is how to manage. So if you're a therapist and you're managing, that seems like that's enough. But to me, and what I tell the people that I work with that come to work with me, is that if you start working here, you will change. And I'm not just kidding you on that. You will change. You will not just change how you think, but you'll change how you see life. And in doing that, you'll have a nicer life, but you will have to change, because you can't help other human beings to mental well-being if you can't live there yourself, if you don't even know what it is. I mean, honestly, there's still, to my knowledge, no classes on mental well-being in graduate school for any of the marriage and family therapist programs that I work with. Now, there may be some somewhere, but I've never heard of any. Now, that to me that's a crusade for me. That's something I have to work on yet. That hasn't changed. Is that we have to be able to teach people what mental well-being is, so they know what it is to when they see it. Because a client will come in and they'll get into a better place. And what I would do in the past was that I'd ask them about something else from their past that was painful, and then boom, they'd start feeling bad again. Okay, now we got to work on this, you know.
Yeah.
Rather than saying like, no, you're in that moment of mental well-being right now. Look at that. Look how that happened without you doing anything. And if you don't see that in yourself, you can't point it out in other people. You just can't see it. You don't even know to look for it.
So, since you brought that up, talk a little bit about what looks like well-being to you when you see it in people. When you can say to them, oh yeah, now this person wasn't in mental well-being. This is what mental well-being looks like.
Well, to me, mental well-being is when people are very present, they're calm, and mainly calm, not always, but that calm is their default. They go back to calm. They get excited about things, but then they go back to calm. Whereas a lot of people stay excited all the time and get a little bit of hit of calm every once in a while. So it's this switching that around so that you can be excited about life, but you're also settled. There's a settledness that happens when people are mentally healthy. They will take care of themselves. They start to do things that they thought they needed to do to be healthy. But when they became healthy, they started to see how to exercise and eat right and kind of do the things that we all should be doing to live a happy life. And actually, I just said that wrong, because it's really, we have to find our happiness and then we see to do those things. It's just like that's how your own way of looking at yourself changes, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So it's there's always kind of a positive, appropriately positive feeling that a person is. You know, people say, well, you mean they're happy all the time? That's ridiculous. I don't want to be happy all the time. People like that are ridiculous. And I'll say, well, it's not necessarily happy. It might be that you're feeling very secure. So if I'm a neurosurgeon and I'm doing brain surgery, I might not be acting happy, but you better darn well hope my mind is focused on what I'm doing and I'm pretty calm at what I'm doing. And to be able to get into that state, to do that, is a state of mental well-being. Okay? So it's recognizing that beautiful feeling, feeling of contentment, a feeling of joy. It's what I always call the Christmas feelings. You know, that at Christmas time everybody talks about peace, love, and joy, and that's really mental well-being. Well, we kind of relegate it to like once a year, you know, and then everybody's talking about it, so this beautiful feeling comes out of people, and they're like, oh, Merry Christmas, and there's just this great feeling that kind of comes through the air, whether you're Christian or not, it doesn't matter. It gets catchy, you know, that kind of feeling. And then promptly at January 1st, we forget about that and go back to being stressed and kind of, you know, getting back to life is more serious. So it's living your life by understanding how thought works. That's the deal, so that when you get caught up in your thinking, you go back to mental well-being before you do anything. Like, I used to get all caught up in my thinking and have to do something right now, and it would never turn out very well because my thinking wasn't in a good place. So it's really listening to, that's the other thing, is like when people are mentally healthy, they listen to you, and they listen to themselves, they listen to their own wisdom. They're able to be successful in what they do because they can see doors that are open instead of closed. They see things that could happen rather than seeing what has happened in the past. They're living without fear. You know, that living without fear to me was a huge thing. I would say that after I really discovered the principles, maybe 2 years later, more than that, I was living in Hawaii, so like 4 years later, I thought I was free of fear. And then one morning I woke up and I realized that I didn't feel fear anymore. It was gone. And I thought, gee, I didn't even know it was there the day before. It's funny how that happens.
Okay.
The other thing that, like if I'm helping somebody, the other thing that I see is that people come in and they start talking about how they can see that they're thinking, how they can tell when their feeling gets off, and then they do that kind of self-writing. They'll talk to me about that. Like, I got really upset about this, and then I calmed myself down, and I was really able to see it differently, and everything worked out great. When I get that version of whatever it is from the person, then I know the rest is all downhill. Because now they're seeing that they have the ability to manage their emotions, their thinking, their life, their relationship, whatever it is. And people are so surprised. They'll think like, oh, you know, it actually worked. I just calmed down and then I kind of knew what to do. It was so cool. But it's so simple, you know, that we live in a world where things are so complicated that we kind of think it should be more complicated. So I think that's a big thing, when the person takes the baton. You know, when you run a relay, you have to run next to the person for a while, and pretty soon they grab it, and then you let go, and they run their own race. And that to me is therapy. Like I'm giving them the baton. I'll run with them for a while until they can feel it on their own, and then they're on there, and they go.